Posttraumatic growth. How to improve mental health after trauma and adverse life experiences. Interview with Dr. Miriam Zilbergleit. You may have heard about post traumatic stress disorder, but have you heard about post traumatic growth? Major trauma can lead to many difficulties, but even adverse life experiences can cause negative consequences. Can trauma and adverse life experiences lead to positive effects too? Would you like to learn what this post traumatic growth is and how to get more positive effects after a difficult circumstances? Then you're in the right place. In this episode, our guest, Dr. Z, has some great pointers to promote post trauma growth. And you are watching episode 83 of Happy and Healthy Mind Show. Thank you for joining. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot. So, Dr. Miriam, thank you for joining today.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. She likes to go by Dr. Z, so I'm going to call her Dr. Z.
It's more simple.
So Dr. Z is an award-winning physician wellness advocate. She helps health professionals prevent burnout. She is triple board certified in internal medicine, geriatric and obesity medicine, and author of an upcoming book on wellness. And I am your host, Dr. Rozina. I help corporate leaders prevent burnout. I'm an executive coach, speaker, author, in addition to being an integrative psychiatrist. I believe that our mind is the software that runs the hardware of your brain as well as your body. Therefore, I share practical tips for your mental fitness. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical advice. If you find this content helpful, then join our mission of eradicating preventable suffering. Share it with others so more people can live a happier and healthier life without unnecessary suffering. As this is a live program, you can ask the questions in the comments and we'll try to answer. Let's learn from Dr. Z. How did you become interested in this topic?
It's an interesting question because everybody should assume that because we are doctors or physicians or part of the healthcare community, we know about well-being and we are aware of how to achieve well-being. And actually, I will say that probably is the opposite. And we are the last ones on taking care of ourselves. In my case, I thought that, and I was taught that doctors, we are superheroes. We don't cry, we don't have pain. Our schedule is adapted to the needs of others. Ourselves and our families come second, and we need to perform no matter what. And yes, I live all my life like that, and I have been a physician for many years, many decades, till COVID. And I feel like COVID was a slap on the face for many of us because we crossed the threshold that we were able to contain. The last drop came and we start seeing our colleagues, our friends, our staff really suffering. And that was the reason why I felt that, okay, I need to learn and I need to update myself and I need to find a way not only to take care of course, of the patients, the community. We were already doing that, but what about the doctors? They are sacrificing their life for others, but they are suffering too. So that was the reason why I opened the door for learning about well-being.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how the life has changed since you started learning and applying those tools in your life?
Oh, tremendously. From a type A personality, super workaholic, multitasking mother of two boys, I started to change a little my approach to life, slow down a little, select priorities, understand that it's not enough to be physically there, but that you need to be present. Since my kids started to grow, and even they are 6 and 8, but they started to understand a little more about life, they started also to request more of time, right? Shared time. And I heard things that were very painful during the COVID is, Mommy, are you dying? Will you die? Who will take care of me? And they will cry in the mornings when I was leaving to the hospital. And that was a very very difficult, situation to deal with
Yeah,
because I didn't
yeah.
have an answer.
Right, right.
Not at
And
the
you must be
beginning.
afraid yourself too.
Yes, and
Yeah,
afraid to even come back home and even
right,
touch them, right? And now 2 years later looks like, oh no, this never happened. But that was the reality at the beginning
right.
of this pandemic. And then it was like, mommy, why did you bring me to the world if you have already a cell phone? You spend more time with the cell phone working than with me. And that's when
Ah,
you
they're saying that,
realize
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
painful one
yeah.
too.
Yes, yes.
And that's when you realize that your priorities are not in the same place that your values.
Uh-huh.
And that gap creates so much stress, so much pain that you have to take a decision, or you close that gap and you
Yeah,
go back to your values,
yeah.
or you will suffer and will make others around you that love you and need you to suffer too.
Right, right. So this was kind of an eye opener experience, and you made certain decisions and applied certain tools. How is life different once you started applying those tools?
At the beginning it was very difficult and it was very scary. I believe that many of us physicians and other professionals, I don't think that this affects only physicians, but uh, overachievers, we lose our identity as women or men, and we become our profession. So thinking that you will not be the super doctor that you are expected to be, and that you will say no to this meeting and no to that project, makes you feel very uncomfortable,
Uh-huh.
for sure. I will say that give you this mix between feeling ashamed and also guilty,
Mm-hmm.
because you are disappointing those that were used to hear yes, 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 yes from
Yeah.
you, and now you're saying no, and they have no clue what is happening.
Right, right.
And the other thing is
So
that
like
with all,
after you went through that phase, how do you feel after applying those tools? So initially
oh,
it was very difficult. You were going through all these difficult emotions. How did it change for you?
I can see myself in the mirror and see the person who I am and be proud and happy. Even I admit that I am not perfect and I have a lot of things to still keep doing,
Right.
but I am not ashamed of being the person that I am, because now I know my gaps and I'm working on them.
So you feel happy and probably relaxed and um,
Yes, I feel
healthy too,
relaxed.
and healthy too.
Yes, and I feel happy, healthy. I have good days and bad days like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I feel like I am in agreement with myself. I am
Uh-huh.
not fighting with myself all the time, and that's a reason for feeling very stressed.
Right, wonderful. So, we started talking about this post traumatic growth, and we were talking about, adverse life experiences. How did that topic become important in your life?
Well, the first thing is, of course, COVID was a traumatic event, right? But while I started trying to learn, and my mission was I will learn so I can help, I decided to get a certification as a mental health ally. And I discovered a little of things, a lot of things, a little and a lot, that I didn't know about. And I learned about secondary traumatic stress that we majority of the times we don't talk about. In some medical terms, we use vicarious stress, post-traumatic stress, which is very similar to what happened to someone that goes to war, right, or is in a big accident, right, that we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress. The difference is that in vicarious stress, any healthcare professional or anybody that helps other that is a caregiver will have these same symptoms, same picture, but as a consequence of seeing someone else suffering. So physicians we were going through both. We were suffering ourselves, we were scared like crazy and worried about our families, and we were worried about our patients, and we were seeing people dying. So vicarious traumatic stress was the first thing that came to in front of me, and the question is, okay, now what do we do with that? So my sister is a positive psychologist, So of course I went to her and I was like, okay, so and the solution. And in positive psychology, we have the idea that after a traumatic event, you have the opportunity to bounce back. And
Mhm.
that's the typical term that normally we use as resilience, right? You can have a bad moment in your life that happens many times and you go back and that to your baseline, that's called resilience. But they don't stop there. And that's the wonderful thing, is that they think that if you go down and you have the capacity to understand what is going on, have introspection, self-compassion, and self-empathy, and you open your heart and your mind, right, to others and to yourself, so you can learn from that traumatic event, you will not only bounce back to your baseline, but this time you will even go farther. And that's what is
Mhm.
called post-traumatic growth, where you come back, but you come back stronger. It's a better version of yourself.
Wonderful. Yeah, yeah. As you are talking, I could like really relate. Like when I had my car accident and it was a really traumatic experience for me, I saw so much emotional and physical, even physical, emotional growth after that, because I developed the level of empathy that I couldn't have experienced before, and understanding and compassion and kindness and all those things. So those are part of the post traumatic growth. And the reason I think I really wanted to talk about in this podcast was because I was just by the way you make these references to the terms, and my daughter, she's 14, and she said there is something called post traumatic growth. Can there something be positive after a traumatic experience? And I said, yes, there's so much research out there. And I realized that a lot of people don't realize that, yes, difficult circumstances can produce a lot of negative consequences, but there could also be positive after effect in form of the growth. And so you kind of mentioned a little bit about the post traumatic growth. Let me ask the audience, have you did you realize about this post traumatic growth before this program, listening to it? Just put in the comment yes or no. And as people are answering, I'm going to ask you, Dr. Z. And so, are there ways we can develop, or are there tools that we can use so that we not only come out of our traumatic or difficult life circumstances, but become the better version of ourselves? How can we have that growth? Are there some things that we can do to prepare ourselves when and if there is a traumatic life situation?
Well, one of the number one tools that we should be using, right, and it's the one that opens the door for all the cascade of events that will happen later, is self awareness. If you are not self aware, there's no way to start any process. We need to know where we are, what are our feelings, what are we not only afraid of, but what are our obstacles, why we are where we are. Is this something that we did? Is something that we cause, right? Because sometimes we create our own nightmares, right? That's our reality. Sometimes it's not, right? You just got sick, right? It was a genetic reason, something, or an accident where you didn't do anything. So what's the cause of the problem? Where I am right now? How do you feel? What, right, and recognize those feelings and accept them, and then we are going into the area of, okay, self-compassion, right, self-empathy, being kind. Okay, I am where I am, this is how I feel, afraid, upset, whatever are our feelings, ashamed. Okay, that's okay, I accept that. How do I fix it? How do I keep going? Right? Because there are not bad feelings. That idea of I have good emotions or bad emotions. No, emotions are emotions. We need to accept them. We need to deal with them, and we need to use them in our favor. Uh, and after we know our feelings, is are we able to do this by ourselves? do we need help? And sometimes we may be able to move on, right? It may take time. Grief is an excellent example of a trauma that in many times we will solve by ourselves. But sometimes you will have to ask for help. A doctor, a psychologist, your family, if you are religious, your church, whatever it is. So asking for help.
And it is
And
very hard for, like, type A personalities, workaholic, high achieving professionals to ask for help. We are a
yes,
helper. We don't ask help, we give help. And so, how you suggest people deal with that feeling?
so I will tell you what I did during COVID. That was my experience. I was so concerned about what was happening with my residence medical students, and I saw also that they were kind of forced by society, right, and the culture of the hospital to act like nothing is going on and everything will be okay. So I empirically started to come into the clinic and say, "Oh, how are you doing, guys? Everybody's good. Oh, I am not good. My kids were crying and I have back pain and I am a little nervous about this." And they will be like, "Why is she sharing that?" And the next day I will come with, "Oh, and that patient makes me very upset. It's so difficult to deal with it." And little by little, what I started to do is create or to show, not to create, to show my own vulnerability, right? To lead by example. Weeks later, I had, this influx of residents coming to my office, like to cry or to share that they are also distressed or that they are afraid because the grandma is sick or they broke up with the boyfriend. And I feel like, yes, we sometimes we're in a position where we have to decide to be vulnerable and understand that that is not a weakness, that is a strength, because you have to have a lot of strength, emotional strength, to be able to say, "I am afraid in front of others," or "I fail on this in front of others." So and I need help. So I believe that we need to remove the bias.
Yeah,
Asking for help doesn't mean you are weak or that you fail. It
yeah.
means that you are smart enough to know that you are not in a good place and someone may help you. And the other is we are in a
And you have
place.
to be kind of be vigilant in terms of whom you are opening up. You don't have to go and tell every patient that I'm breaking down. But
No, be careful. Yes, and that's where social awareness is important, right? And that's why I love this concept of emotional intelligence, where you know where you are, but not only inside but also outside, right?
right, right.
I agree totally. But it's important if we are in a leadership position, right? And probably a lot of women in our range of age, we are already in a position where we have younger people working with us, right? And we don't have to be leaders because we have a name in our door, right? Or a diploma. Leadership involves just having people around you that will trust your opinion and will allow you to guide them, and right. So anybody could be a leader today in any place. So if you act as a leader, invite others, right, to be vulnerable and to open up. And the best way to do it is doing it first, showing that there's not punishment, there's not embarrassment, no retaliation when someone shows this vulnerable side of themselves.
So, as you've been talking, there were the bunch of things you said. Number one was becoming self-aware. Okay, once you are self-aware, then you can develop self-compassion. Okay, being able to express in appropriate settings and becoming it, accepting that you need help and asking for help. Is there any other suggestion that you would have for our health professionals? In the COVID is passing, but the stress is not passing. There is still a lot of difficult circumstances, like you said, vicariously we face this trauma of loss and illness and all the world situation happening, and seeing the difficulties, it affects us because we are empathic people. So any other tools that we could use?
I will say that the next step in this cycle will be, now that you are in a better place, right? Become a role model and help others. And I believe that that's the biggest demonstration of growth, when you can guide others, right? That's number one, that's to close the cycle. But I will say also that it's very important to pay attention to those that are around us, right? I believe that self-care is priority, because we need to take care of ourselves in order to be able to take care of others. The circumstances that we are living, and I know that we blame COVID, but the healthcare system has been broken for a long time, and COVID just was an open window that allowed us to see the reality, and the reality continues. So don't be a bystander in front of situations. Don't close your eyes, your ears, right? Be social aware, be someone that will advocate for others, have an opinion. When you don't have an opinion, you are actually having an opinion, right?
Right. You're
You are,
choosing to not express.
yeah, you're right,
Choosing,
yeah.
yeah.
So that excuse of I don't have an opinion, you have one.
Yeah.
So bystander syndrome is something that we as healthcare professionals should not be attached to, because we have a responsibility with ourselves, with our patients, but also with our colleagues.
When you're having fun, time passes. So, to kind of wrap up, is there any, can you give us your most important advice to our listeners?
I will tell your audience and you what I tell myself every day, that I have a difficult time, and I have those days like everybody else. I repeat myself almost as a mantra that I am not a victim. I refuse to be a victim, because being a victim has become a very easy way to escape from responsibility. Oh, I don't like this, but it's not my fault. They gave me this job, and this doesn't work, but it's my boss, and the system is broken. Not my fault. So we are victims. We are not victims. We are talking to healthcare professionals or anybody that is right now working and has a diploma, or even without a diploma, right? We are adults. We are smart people. Hopefully we are healthy enough to advocate for ourselves. We have a voice, right, and a mind and a heart and values, and an education that our parents hopefully provide to us. And so we need to start taking the responsibility of our life. And in my book, I said something that is, we are the writers of our book, we are the
Mhm.
editors of our story, right? And we are the actors of our life. And I believe that that's the best message that I can share with anybody. Take the responsibility of being the actor of your own life. And my now 8-year old, but he was 6-year old when he said this to me, he told me something that I believe that is one of the most beautiful things that I heard in my life. This is your life. This is your choice. This is your journey. If we believe that, we will start making better choices, and we will start being more proactive, and we will advocate for ourselves, for our values, and for what we consider that is important.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what would happen if we don't?
If we don't, it's a very tricky question, because there probably we will have some group of lucky people that will not see consequences, right? Those exist. But as a humanity, we will go, down, because we depend one of each other. And if as a community, as a humanity, we lose our values, right? And we
Yeah,
sell our souls to comfort instead of what is correct, right?
right,
That is called
right.
moral
Yeah,
resilience. We are sacrificing more than our well-being. We are
right.
sacrificing all our lives.
Yeah, and like you said, if we don't take steps to recognize that we are suffering from many times this vicarious trauma, and if we don't recognize that this trauma can either result in negative consequences and affect our ability to stay helpful to others and give us the purpose in life, we can lose our health, our wealth, our relationships, and it can affect all aspects of life. But on the reverse side, if we do accept what is happening and kind of shift from that victim mode and focus on having this post traumatic growth, then we could be a better version of ourselves and achieve our highest potential
And help others,
and
right?
help others. Yeah, because that is our potential to be able to help others. And if we focus on that, then we would be able to be better providers as well as better selves. There's a lot to learn. And what would you, if somebody wants to reach you and learn more about you and learn more about your upcoming book, how can they reach you?
So they can find me. There you are in LinkedIn. And please feel free to text me or contacting me. I would love to know more about anybody that is interested in learning and sharing their experiences. My goal today in life is to help others. And my book right now is my own therapy and my own journey to become a better mother, a better daughter, a wife, a physician, a person. But through that book, I want to help others to achieve the best version of themselves. I believe that we don't live in an island by ourselves. We live in community, and we need to help each other so we can succeed as a group.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you, Dr. Z, for sharing your gift. She's going to share with us 3 mistakes health professionals make that cost them their well being. And you can get that resource by visiting our website, happyandhealthymind.com. Under the resources, you'd be able to get this great resource. And if you are in US and you are like me, you like reminders and resource links by text, you can also text the number, text the word joyful to the number 38470, and we'd be happy to send you reminders and resources. So we work on building the resilience and a lot of these stress management techniques, meditation, mindfulness. There are lots of tools that helps to restore your thinking brain's ability to come out of this hijack. And I would like to share some of these tools in my upcoming webinar. I'm going to be doing a Q&A webinar on the topic burnout prevention for corporate leaders. And so, if you are a corporate executive feeling at the brink of burnout and don't want to lose your career and income, then join me. We will be discussing 3 natural ways to reduce stress, increase productivity, and get further in your career faster and without drugs. And so, if you would like to join, please join me at drrozina.com/webinar. For now, I would leave you with a question. You know, every day is a new opportunity to make a change, make a new choice. What is one thing you're going to choose today? One thing to prevent your burnout and grow after trauma. Till next time, stay safe, happy, and healthy. Thank you.